All right, everybody, I'm going to say something that might frustrate people on both sides of the internet here, but I want to get into it. So, everyone is allowed to hate taxes. You are allowed to disagree with how money is spent from those said taxes. You're allowed to be skeptical, uneasy, or even super pissed off about it. But what you're not allowed to do is pretend the tax system works on protests or saying no, feelings, hashtags. It doesn't, unless maybe you're down to take the consequences that come with it. Because guess what? The IRS gives absolutely no shits about what they can and what they can't do. Because what they are going to do is they're going to penalize you. They're going to charge you interest along the way with that. And regardless of your feelings here, if somebody told you that withholding payment is a form of leverage, let me tell you, they are wrong. It is evidence-based and a bunch of unnecessary fees that come with that evidence. Welcome back to Spicy Takes and Tax Breaks, where we mix strategy, uncover the bullshit, and go through the things that your group chat gets wrong, specifically regarding money. I'm Aubree Denekamp, your tax strategist, and the person who gets paid to clean up messes that were told initially that everything was totally fine. But before we jump into it today, I want to be crystal clear about one specific thing. This is not a political episode. I'm absolutely not here to defend the government by any means, but I'm also not here to debate policy. I'm not here to tell you how you're supposed to vote. But this is going to be a reality episode, and as much as I wish the misinformation that we're seeing on social media would work as a strategy, because trust me, I do, it's not going to, and it doesn't. Right now, there's so much viral content telling people to stop paying income taxes, protest this financial system and the IRS, withhold payments until the fraud is being addressed within the government. And some of you might agree with that. And I am not happy about what is going on, but let me tell you, as someone who has sat across the table and continues to get to sit across the table from audits, penalties, liens, waivers, and so many tiers and dollars that are unnecessarily spent, I want you to understand what actually is going to happen next. Let's separate two things that are dangerously blended, specifically if you're looking online. These are the opinions and disagreements versus non-compliance guidance. You can disagree with the tax code every single day of your life, and the tax code doesn't require your approval to be in effect. But what it does approve and what it needs is compliance. It requires that. And the distinction matters more than most people even realize. Because here's the part that influencers that you might be seeing on TikTok or your Instagram feed are not explaining to you. You don't get to opt out of a system because you morally object to it or you disagree with how those funds are being spent, especially when this system has enforcement power, collection authority, and time on their side. The tax system is in no way emotional. It is not at all. It's procedural. And the procedure in law in this instance always wins. I want you to think about it in this way. If you disagreed with a utility bill, let's call it your electric bill, you think it's overpriced and you're justified to that thought. You can even think the company is being mismanaged and you think your funds are being mismanaged. They're not going to debate you. And if you stop paying it, they don't care. They will eventually shut off the lights and your power. They're going to put you into collections. The tax system operates in the same way. They don't care if you argue either. It documents and it fines you with interest. And this is where I need everyone to listen carefully. Withholding payment from the IRS is in no way leverage to you. It does not create some sort of negotiation power on your end. It doesn't send a message to them. It doesn't trigger any sort of reform or progress forward to changing in the future. What it does do, though, is create a very strong paper trail, as it's supposed to. And it's so clean. It's one that leads directly to the IRS. It's the Internal Revenue Service that gets that knock on their door. And non-payment here is not symbolic in any way. It is binary, handed directly to the IRS, like I said. So whether it's paid or unpaid, filed or not filed, they know. Whether it's compliancy or you're being completely non-compliant. There isn't some sort of box that you get to check off saying, I don't agree, or I'm making a point to you today. You are hurting yourself only by doing this. And when people online say things like, they can't come after everyone, That tells me they don't understand how an automated enforcement works. Key word here is automated, okay? So penalties are going to accrue quietly. Interest is compounding daily. And the longer you wait, the less flexible your options become on payment plans or abatement options. And this is not some sort of rebellion that you're winning. You are doing some sort of expensive procrastination at best. So people say, well, why not? So talk history, because this is not a new thing. And for any of those who've been paying attention, you would realize that. People have been revolting over taxes for as long and as of before even taxes have existed. The most famous example everyone loves to reference is the Boston Tea Party. And here's what people conveniently forget about this specific moment in history. It was not random. It was not individual. And it wasn't, I'm just so mad I'm not gonna pay. It was organized. It was symbolic. And it was so collective. And most importantly, it happened outside of a functioning tax enforcement system as we know and have absolutely in place today. There was no such thing as the IRS back then. There was no automated penalty system that was going to continue accruing for you. There was no such thing as a wage garnishment, no bank levies. There was no digital trail following each and every dollar that we touch. And that context super matters here. I want you guys to fast forward to modern tax revolts, and the pattern becomes painfully consistent here. Whether it's anti-income tax movements, sovereign citizen arguments, or opt-out theories that obviously cycle every decade or so, they don't lead to any sort of reform or change or benefit to us. They lead to court cases, massive amounts of penalties, liens, and yes, sometimes even prison sentences. This part is so uncomfortable, but it's important to think about. Even if we don't want to do something, let's be strategic about it. I don't think people remember a lot of this, and I get it. And the big part of why we don't remember these movements is because we remember the consequences that come with them. We remember the individuals who thought they were making this stand, but really they were making an example for the rest of us, something that we didn't want to go down. And because this modern tax system that we do have in place now, it doesn't bend under any sort of non-payment revolt that we can do. It's not panicking, it's not negotiating with us, it's documenting. It tightens procedures year after year, and it escalates quietly. It waits until we have the capacity to pay it back a lot of times. And the people who end up hurting the most are almost never ever the ones who are encouraging the protests. And the voices already paid the taxes, or they already monetized on your outrage. They disappeared the moment enforcement showed up. History doesn't show us that tax revolts win or sway how the government is taxing us. Typically, they end up bringing us more taxes. And strategy here will beat the rebellion every single time. And the people who actually change their outcomes are not the loudest people you're going to hear. They're the ones who are listening, watching, educating themselves, making sure they're not making the same mistakes other people have. And they're the ones who understand the rules enough to move differently than most other people who are just following things they're seeing online. And so I want to make sure everyone realizes there is a massive distinction between civil disobedience and financial self-destruction. Anyone who has ever watched even 5 minutes of the news recently or scrolled through social media in the last few years knows this or should know this. No matter where you fall politically, no matter what outlet you're watching or news station you follow, no matter who you are angry at this week or agreeing with, we've all seen the same exact thing play out over and over again. People fight the system so loudly. We're angry, and we're rightfully so, and a lot of times. But while the system stays quiet, they're being patient, procedural, and they're planning out as we are spiraling collectively. Civil disobedience, and I'm talking real civil disobedience here, is intentional. It is visible. There is a strategic plan behind it, and almost always paired with some sort of legal counsel. It's coordinated, it's calculated, and sometimes it does work, and the people participating understand the consequences and weigh those out before they're acting. And that's what's happening online. people think, but actually in reality, that's not at all what is happening online. It is the complete opposite. What's happening is people are fighting aimlessly. They are speaking on things without much knowledge behind it. They are fighting aimlessly without a plan, without any sort of protection, without understanding how any sort of enforcement behind it might actually work. And that's a big deal because the tax system isn't going to respond to your outrage. It responds to paperwork, to calculations, to what is being monitored automatically. And here's the part that no one really wants to say out loud, but we should be. The tax system has more patience than we do, and they have a lot more money to be leveraging. It's not going to argue so quickly. It's not reacting quickly. It waits, it tracks, and it builds. And eventually it collects with a shit ton of interest. So when I say this, I'm not being dramatic. I'm being honest, and everyone is on the same playing field here. You don't beat the system by breaking the law. You beat it by learning how it actually works and how it works for you and how it's working for others too, actually. And once you understand that, your energy stops being wasted on the noise you're seeing online, and it starts creating leverage and asking questions about the new things you're seeing online, because it does. Things change constantly. There are always new statutes and bills being reviewed and in place. So if you're angry about taxes, that's not a bad thing. It's actually kind of good. Anger does provide so much energy, and it's usually one of the stronger ones, actually. But smart people, or strategic people, we'll call it, convert that energy into a leverage that works for them. Not very avoidable penalties. They are not accruing things that they do not need to. And here's what actually changes in the outcomes. They are creating ownership, structuring it correctly, planning the timing around different things. They are doing all of these things, planning and anticipating what next moves they want to make. These are what I like to call levers. They are not a protest. They are not shutting your eyes or being silent to what is going on and is outrageous in a lot of ways. It is not non-payment or non-compliance of things. It is creating an ownership that gives you options and structure that gives you control over how you want it to go. Timing that provides this flexibility within the life that you're living now and how you're planning to live it in the future. And that's how people legally reduce their exposure year after year, even as they grow. And this is how they do it legally, again, without ending up on some sort of watch list or owing hundreds of thousands of unnecessary dollars. And the difference is basically summed up in one sentence. Protests are typically out of a reaction as owners reposition. Owners don't try to burn the system down. They learn how to move with inside it, how other people are already successfully moving inside of it. And they make it work for them where they are at currently. They quietly, legally, and very, very effectively make it work for that lifestyle. And that's not something that is selling out. It is leveling up financially and growing up, understanding how those rules that are placed the same for everyone are working. And so before we wrap up, one last practical reminder I do want to throw out for year end, because this is where strategy really is meeting real life. As we're heading towards the end of January, here's what everyone should be expecting to pay and be paying attention to or filing for. If you already make an estimated payments, January 15th was the deadline for your fourth quarter estimates for 2025. Sorry, I know it's late, but I have mentioned this in my earlier episodes. If you've been listening along or working with us, all of that should be done. But by January 31st, W-2s and 1099s need to be issued. So that means all of the payroll numbers are officially locked in. So whether that is paying your children, paying your employees, other 1099 contractors, all of that needs to be locked in and sent out, e-filed, however you're doing that. Contractor payments need to be on record by then, and the paper trail for the last year is pretty much being done written at this point. That's obviously minus charitable donations, employer retirement contributions, things like that. But we'll get into that as we get a little bit closer to the spring. This is also the point that a lot of people are emotionally checking out, feeling like we finally made it through, and say, I'm going to deal with this tax stuff again later. But I don't encourage that. Late January is actually one of the best times to pause, review just what has happened within the last year, and kind of, even if it is just a vague plan, get some of that on paper and decide what you're wanting to do differently. Even in the stance of recording, it's going to save you a bunch of money up front. So it's better to take a look at it now, make sure that bookkeeping is being recorded as of Jan 1 in that fashion, so you're not paying to have it done later before the year truly gets away from you, because like anything else it does, the years go faster and faster, for me at least, as they go by. There's nothing here that's requiring such panic. It's just requiring more awareness. And even if that just means spending an hour within this month, taking a look at the broader sense of last year, I highly, highly encourage it. So if this episode has grounded you in any way, if it cut through any sort of noise that you've been seeing online, or if it's helped you realize that you're creating clarity versus kind of noise hanging on, seat of your pants flying this year, then here's your next move. Operate more like an owner versus a protester this year, specifically when we're looking at things like the IRS. That doesn't mean you're doing anything extreme or skirting a line. It means you're asking better questions. It means maybe sitting down with your tax preparer and asking, where am I being exposed? What maybe have I not taken advantage of in the past years? What control do I actually have? What changes now would you think makes sense if I'm still growing, or if I plan to stay the same because I'm on my way out? And if you don't have somebody who can walk you through this, not just your current situation, but even the version of your life and the business you're building towards, I encourage you so strongly to reach out to us or find someone who can help structure this for you. This isn't meant to be some fear-mongering or intense task. It's not political. It's just a strategy that keeps you protected, but also positioned towards what your goals are. So again, this is Spicy Takes and Tax Breaks. I'm Aubree, the write-off queen. And in the next episode, we're going to be drawing a line that so many of my clients, and I think a lot of people in general, are very confused about. And this is legal tax avoidance versus tax fraud, and why a lot of people accidentally wander way too close to the wrong side of this. And I don't want anyone listening ever to get close to there. So I look forward to seeing you then. And again, this is Aubree Denekamp, Spicy Takes and Tax Breaks.